Well, 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 if it isn't Dead Island 2, out of development hell and fully released.
Hell, it's about time.
So what's Dead Island 2 all about? You're not even on an island. Well, think of the dead as the sea, and you're surrounded by them, in a lockdown post-apocalyptic LA, or Hell A. I guess metaphorically that's an island. You can choose up to 6 characters, and I will say this now, choose wisely. Replayability does not feel good in single player, but may vary with online players or a couple of buddies. There's not a lot of backstory going on for anyone before the opening cutscene, just everyone seemingly rushing to get to the evacuation by any means necessary.
Rains of course, eh, Jefe?
Without going into too much detail for the rest of the game's intro, the Slayers board the plane and soon find out that someone was hiding their bite, and proceeds to unleash zombie chaos mid-flight. The military is forced to report the infected on board and the plane is shot down. The plane crashes and you need to get to a mansion of a survivor you helped out. With 54 hours into the game, I can tell you that the combat doesn't get old as long as you use certain skills sparingly. For example, the foot stomp when you knock a zombie down, or a well-timed dodge or block which enables you to counter, which kills a zombie in devastating fashion. The free ebb and flow of combat is good enough where I didn't need to overuse these skills, also thanks to a lot of environmental options, but the counter remains available if I need it. Early on, guns feel good and don't start off too strong. Gunpowder is slightly hard to come by until you unlock fast travel and do some cheeky loot runs to certain locations. Police station armory. Skill cards can change the game up in some interesting ways, but I found that I rarely needed to tinker with much on my first playthrough of Bruno. Fury mode is an awesome addition to your arsenal of zombie slaying tools, but I will admit most times I didn't feel the need to use it. The few times that I did need to rely on Fury were my last stands, when I ran out of medkits and when I was backed into a corner, or when there were one too many Apex mutations. Let's talk about locations. The game is full of beautiful settings to slay zombies in. The music they use to present certain atmospheres is fantastic. I don't even want to show you or let you hear the music in this review because being in that moment just felt awesome and needs to be experienced firsthand. I found myself jealous of how beautiful houses were on Beverly Hills, how awesome it was to fight for my life in an arcade on the Santa Monica Pier, and how totally tubular it was to catch some suns on Venice Beach. I mentioned fast travel earlier, but it's not the fast travel we all know and love in other open world titles. You have to reach a certain location within each area, then use fast travel to reach different parts of Hell A. Since Dead Island 2 is not an open world game, it is better for it. Side note, while fast traveling, you get the option to venture into Hell A in the daytime or night. A nice option for those unwilling to brave the darkness. Let's talk about the story. After completing the main questline, I can honestly say it does leave something to be desired. Dead Island 2 doesn't take itself too seriously, and that's a good thing. It's supposed to be a video game, and that means it's supposed to be fun. But right when things get interesting plot-wise, it leaves you somewhat stranded here in Hell A feeling a bit anticlimactic. Some characters feel underutilized, but who knows if the devs cut out content or are saving it for future DLCs. Either way, it would have been nice if the main story quests were a tad bit longer, but that's where the side quests come in. Some of them are more interesting than the main story, some are sad even, and some are just downright over the top in a good way. With all that said, Dead Island 2 isn't perfect. Like the main story questline, level 30 being the maximum level feels too short. Certain materials don't seem to be used as often as others. An example, synthetic fiber, sometimes metal parts. The level catch-up mechanic for items seems like a good way to use money, but can be expensive at times, especially early on, and especially if you don't want to try new weapons, even though they drop seemingly often enough. You can accidentally sell your own items if you're not paying attention, which raises the question of why you are able to sell or scrap your 8 main equipped items. This does not apply to special named weapons. Having an option to prevent accidents like this would be a nice quality of life change. Also a buyback feature, because I've accidentally sold a weapon I didn't want to sell once or twice. Special named weapons are unable to be scrapped or sold, but there's not enough space in storage to hold them all. Storage feels too limited, even though it was meant to share weapons between slayers and not to stash your favorite weapons, but as mentioned previously, replayability doesn't feel good single player wise, so it may be a hindrance on one character players. Multiplayer feels too easy at times, might need some adjustments, but that could just be me. Sometimes melee swings feel shorter than expected. If I was a salesman and my job was to make you buy this game, I don't think I can convince you on the main story, but I can sell you on everything else. The combat, the locations, and the side stories that they come with. You know what they say, location, 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 and boy did their locations stand out. The combat is fun on its own, but paired with amazing areas to fight in with an incredible soundtrack to increase the intensity or emotion pulsing through the presentation makes for memorable moments. Many games are fun with friends, Dead Island 2 included, but I would be doing a disservice if I didn't inform you that the multiplayer has a small chance of ruining the atmosphere Deep Silver is trying to present to you. Hopefully that isn't the case. Feel free to let me know how you guys felt about Dead Island 2. Thank you for watching my review, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time.